betrayer. In truth, it was I who was betrayed.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. Vyranoth. Originally, probably my least favorite of the incarnates, is slowly becoming one of the ones with the most depth. I still love you, Oricron. You're still my boy. This, of course, stems from the more recent storylines with her unrealizing how much of a loon Fyrakk has become, and is drifting away from him entirely, in forming back on some old relationship that she had originally seemed pretty fine with departing from for the sake of revenge. Couple that with what is to come later on between her, Rathian, and the other aspects, it seems like Ice Queen Vyranoth is going to be sticking around for a while, and won't be taking the same dive that Raszageth and Fyrakk are going to be met with. But my gut, which hasn't failed me before, is telling me that something else is going on with her, and I have the sneaking suspicion that everything is not all that it seems with Vyranoth. And it all comes down to the Incarnate's goals. While each of them has a different way of handling it and doing it, they have all agreed and reached the conclusion that being thralls to the Titans is not the way to go, and that some way, somehow, the Titans' grip over Azeroth must be expunged. Raszageth was entirely bent on freeing the other Incarnates, or complete and total destruction, by nuking the Azure Span. Oricron's was and is giving the old gods Azeroth entirely, and forcing the Titans to make their move, and him just crushing the Titans somehow with his new powers gifted to him by the Void. And Fyrakk is pulling together all of the fire and the flames into a newly made world tree of Yggdrasil, rebirthing Azeroth into a plane of fire for him to rule over. Well, we don't know, or sorta know, on what exactly Vyranoth was. We know she was completely down to go and do anything if it meant vengeance against the Titans. But when the going got tough, or in this case, burning hot, she backed down when it came to the abuse of mortals and the rest of Dragonkind, with what Fyrakk had intended and plans to do with Yggdrasil. Which, sure, that makes some sense, because she was more mad about turning things by force against their very will, like the Titans did to all of their children and their eggs. Vyranoth apparently takes issue with this level of abuse done to a child of Marithra, and so on, enough to quickly turn on Fyrakk. But that's where I think something's up. This was way too quick. And given everything we knew about her, she outright tells Alexstrasza that things are no longer the same and that all that is left for her is vengeance. And before that, she was openly okay with using the Drakthir, Black Dragonflight, and her own brother Fyrakk to achieve their ends of securing Azeroth, away from the Titans. Either something changed by seeing just exactly what that meant through Fyrakk and his Shadow Flame, or this itself is a part of the plan. Vyranoth and Oricron are very clearly the more intelligible of their siblings. Raszageth and Fyrakk seem quite on par with one another on raw strength and power, and less about scheming or planning, leaving it to the other two. But it was Vyranoth who managed to locate Aberrus and where it was hidden. She knew what the plan was to the greater extent. Maybe she didn't fully realize that Oricron was going to go to the Void, but she seems to know he was going to disappear for a bit, so maybe they were all entrusted with the plan after all, and weren't as left in the dark as Alexstrasza previously believed. That, or she knew he was going to be gone, and asked them to hold down the fort until he returned. It could be given the Shadow Flame is only a taste of what the Void has to offer, and this was enough for Vyranoth to realize both her brother's ideals and plans with the Void was just too much. Either way, Vyranoth knows what the plan is, and given that the horrors of Aberys and the destruction that was wrought, I have a harder time believing she's as against the bloodshed as she seems to be. Unless this is again just she wasn't seeing what Farak was up to, and seeing it up and close and personal was different from just talking about it in a hypothetical way. But I also don't think there's much of a reason for her to put up this act around Farak, unless she truly means it, or she did this to win the trust of the aspects and mortals alike. The Incarnates have done this before with the Sundered Flame, where they pretended to act quite aloof when they were being followed by them around and such, but they were aware and used that to their own advantage. So what's stopping them from doing that again when we're sneaking around and watching over them too? So Vyranoth could be using the trust and hope that Alexstrasza has to her advantage, and using Farak to achieve her own ends. She knows Alexstrasza better than anyone. This could very well be a plan she herself made up, or it's the plan she and Erudikron intended to use. Maybe Farak doesn't even know, or he does. I'm leaning more towards the latter, as Erudikron was keenly aware that his brother may fail, and he was more banking on the arrival of Xal'atath than anyone else, using that same tactic again of distracting us from what he is up to. And Erudikron did seem to place some faith in Vyranoth, and might have been aware that Farak was going to go AWOL to some degree. Farak does kind of pull a Starscream here and there, so it's possible he knew that Farak would have been unhinged and Vyranoth was the one to put the trust in. So Vyranoth may very well be playing everyone and fully intends to betray us, though that she and Erudikron's plan may go down properly, and that Farak is going to be hit by the bus. Or she has her own plan and means to remove the hold over the Titans in her own way. She might have even had to side with us strictly because Farak was going against the plan and made lemons into lemonade for the situation. After all, Erudikron is one of the few to not underestimate us, and just as before, could be using our strength to his own advantage, imploring Vyranoth to use us when the chance is met. Alternatively, she really did realize and think the Incarnates were going a bit too far, and she turned to us out of sheer desperation, and didn't want to live in a world of fire that Farak desired. Maybe less about turning on Erudikron's ideals, which she probably still agrees with on some level, and more about betraying Farak, who's gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, thanks to the Shadow Flame. She also might have realized that Erudikron saw both of them as father and backed off from this entire plan and started to form a new one, as I had said. Maybe she initially was going to betray us and do as I've said, but because Alexstrasza actually has a change of heart towards the Titans, it becomes more of a complicated mess, and she works together with us in a less hazardous way to remove the Titans from controlling all of Azeroth, or at least not follow them as blindly as before, and have a less toxic alliance than earlier. This could lead into her maybe even arguing with Erudikron, who in a similar sense to Farak is willing to take things too far. He is open to basically trading one mastermind of their world into another. Either way, Betrayal seems to be in Vyranoth's future, either way for the aspects or for the Incarnates. Anyways, major spoilers are coming in a bit regarding to the aspects and Vyranoth, by the way. What I will say is that it all seems that all of the aspects, including Vyranoth, are going to be empowered by the World Tree of Yggdrasil. Bit of reverse as to how they once blessed the World Tree of Yggdrasil. This could signify that she's choosing to be a defender of Azeroth rather than an offender as the aspect of the elements, perhaps. Or this was a part of the plan, in a similar way to Farak, to gift her a power boost. Now that does kind of throw a whole wrench into my theory, because it would mean letting the aspects get empowered too, but you could argue Vyranoth doesn't have much of an issue with it, because it's more Azeroth or a loon blessing them than, say, the Titans, and she might be more willing to let such things slide to put up a front even longer. I could even see the possibility of Vyranoth not betraying the aspects unless they side with the Titans or defend them once again. But at some point, again, it seems like she and Rathian will be confronting Odin, of all people, the prime designate of the Titans who directly oppose the creation of the dragon aspects and the blessing to dragons. And he was also the one who may have as well enforced the so many laws and terrible acts against the dragons too. It might have been, and it makes the most sense, for Odin to be the one who tampered with the eggs and pushed Tyr and the others to really do that. Although it could be possible that Tyr was the one who did it on his own volition against Odin's will or something. I'm not really sure on that front, but it would make sense to put the blame on Odin because he is a POS. So yeah. So this may very well be the start to the conflict between dragons and titans just as well. But I could theoretically see a situation where the revival of Tyr, one of the aspect's greater friends and greater allies, makes everything needlessly complicated. A situation where it may very well become an it versus me, or it's me or them kind of deal, where either the dragon aspects choose an old friend like Tyr over Vyranoth, or Vyranoth over Tyr, and that decision alone may yet solidify Vyranoth's own path. And given that the Carthaxi warned Tyr of this just before both of their deaths, I wouldn't be surprised if the dragons turn their backs on Tyr and the Titans, leading to this whole conflict beyond this, and shows the consequences of their choices of choosing Vyranoth over the Titans, and choosing freedom over the Titans. It has been an overwhelming theme of Dragonflight of that the Titans are quite dark at times, and that it may be time to part ways from them. Lots of twists and turns seem to be going with this kind of story, and I'll admit, I think I'm going to be wrong this time around, and that Vyranoth may very well be genuine in her feelings, and that she won't betray Dragonkind for the Incarnates, if the aspects don't betray her for the Titans. But we shall see. There's still that Primos future where everything is strangely covered in ice, so maybe that's the reality where Vyranoth stayed with the Incarnates, or it's a taste of what is to come. We've also got that Scaleborn book that'll be out this fall, so maybe it'll reveal some kind of information as to how and why we got this point with Vyranoth, why she's so open and really quick to joining with the mortals. Maybe she's always had a soft spot for us. Maybe she's kind of agreed with some of the stuff that the Titans had to say, but once they stamp it out, what, they offered and promised, and what Alexstrasza promised by not touching their eggs, it's possible that was the deal breaker for her. But those are my thoughts. What do you think? Do you think Vyranoth will betray the Incarnates or the Aspects? Who's your favorite Incarnate? Mine's still Rudikron. Feel free to comment, like, share, and all that jazz. You can also follow me on the Discord where we talk about all sorts of stuff and things. We'd love to have you there. You can also support me on my Patreon, like these amazing folks here. It helps me out a lot and a great deal to make these kinds of videos. But until next time, my friends,